all right, the market's boring, it's confusing, and I'm not allowed to change my mind, apparently. So if you like honest analysis and not stuck up perma-bull nonsense, leave a like on the video. And if you've ever changed your mind, please do leave a comment. Let's see if the keyboard warriors can handle that level of honesty. Now, this is my Bitcoin chart. I'm going to look at the 4 hour, I'm going to look at the daily. We'll start off with the daily first mainly, and then we'll look into the higher time frames, because I think we have to look at the level of structure that is somewhat clear. Potential change of character incoming, not ideal. We have potential bearish zones coming in on the RSI. And the bottom indicator here is basically stable currency dominance starting to rise, equals risk off, right? So, yeah, I'm not so much fortune telling, it's analysis. I'm not Mystic Meg at the end of the day. But reality is, this is a correction. We have hit an all-time high and we've pulled back from that level. And every time that happens, we get this kind of clusterfuck. When it comes to altcoins, it becomes a bit of a problem. When we look at the higher time frame, it looks, I wouldn't say amazing, but there is a nice big divergence here. Okay? Bit of a problem. Now, that doesn't mean that it's all over. It just means the market will cool off. I say quite specifically in videos, I don't believe in the wholesaling may go away, but sell the rally, because guess what's going to happen? Statistically, June, July, not the best months. August is never a good month neither. So yeah, got to be mindful of that summer period. And we've had a rally, so that's a bit of a problem. Going on to the 4 hour time frame, we are slowly getting worse. I.e., you could argue we've created a top, we've pulled back into a new lower high, into a lower high. Are we going to go and create a new low? $102,000 to $100,000 is going to be absolutely key for Bitcoin. And that's the situation we find ourselves in. Bitcoin rules the roost. And we also need to talk about this, the Ethereum / BTC chart. Is it bleeding out? Is it going to bottom? Is this a signal for rotation eventually? Not looking great. That's a daily time frame. If I zoom out and go a little bit deeper, that is the weekly time frame. We are now at levels of resistance. Okay, it is trying to do something, but realistically, Bitcoin dominance is this chart now, by the way, is starting to, go a little bit higher. It's starting to edge up again. So it's not looking great. That is where the biggest problem lies. If you want this indicator at the top, by the way, Learning Crypto, link below, free trial, you can get in on it. It's perfectly free to do so. Right, let's talk about something really quite clear. Every single altcoin currently is looking bad. That's just the reality of it. Certainly the BTC pairs on the higher cap assets, they're just struggling. And I think people are a bit upset by the fact that that has happened. And I understand why. We all want it to do well. I talked about a potential alt season, but it has failed for the most part. And the one thing, and I go back to it, Ethereum, we got a little bit excited the fact that stuff was happening. It was looking relatively decent. And I mentioned in that video yesterday especially why things did change at certain key areas when we talk about the fact that this rejected this level and we went lower. And I can't help that, as I say, we're just looking at what is the market giving us. Now, as I say, every single altcoin, as it stands, has tried within that period going into May to break out and change character and get into the new trend. They just failed. In the USD pairs they did, in the BTC pairs they didn't. That is why we have these issues. So when I talk about the likes of Sui, I talk about even Solana, I talk about, well, obviously Polkadot's another one, Dogecoin, they all rejected key levels on these higher time frames. Just the reality of it. We were looking good for a bit and it just failed. It just flopped, and that is where the biggest reality check comes from. Now, if you are thinking market psychology, every cycle, people come out with a load of stuff saying, well, this is going to happen. I believe this is going to happen. This is like what happened last time. But the reality is, every cycle is different. Every cycle they go, this time is different. But it's not. Your favorite altcoin is still bleeding versus BTC like clockwork as it stands right now because Bitcoin dominance is high. We have to look at what is happening and we need to be aware of that. This is why I no longer invest in altcoins, because there's no point right now, right? Trade them. More momentum there. And that's where we've got to talk about the psychology of it. And let's just go into dominant psychology, just to kind of see if this works. Because with Bitcoin dominance being here, and the weekly time frame, as I say, it's still above that EMA 21, it's still looking a bit ugly. Bitcoin dominance isn't the thing you need to be fully looking at. This is where people get it wrong. Bitcoin dominance is only one part of the machine, right? You've got to look at the stable currency dominance first. And what this will give you is an idea of, is it risk on, is it risk off? Now, currently, we went down, which would be an indicator that money was coming to the market. Bitcoin pumped to all-time high. Some altcoins started to breathe a little bit. And then, as I said before, going back a couple of minutes, we rejected, which is a problem. We may well be going back up here, and then we may well be going back down, potentially if the structure remains a bearish structure. But it's still early to say. Risk on, risk off. That is the most important thing. And dominance is literally like a market's mood ring. It really is. And it's kind of looking like it needs a bit of therapy right now. So even though Bitcoin dominance is high, we expect that because of the ETF inflows, the volume, FOMC, all the money going into Bitcoin. We haven't had that alt season. Now, a lot of people whinge at me in the comments about, oh, alt season. Alt season's a term where Bitcoin is being outperformed by altcoins. And that does happen a few times a year, probably about twice. Last year we had November. We also had January, February of last year too. We haven't had a full-blown alt season cycle from the past. What I mean by that, if you go to the Bitcoin dominance chart, if you zoom out enough, these big boy ones. Now, a lot of people say to me, well, is it different? Yes, because look at the depth of one, and cycle 1 and cycle 2 versus how high we are now, and we've had 0 drops. That's where the big problem is. And someone was on my comments going, oh, but you're using time. Time's probably the best indicator here. Why? Because this is the longest uptrend we've ever had in Bitcoin dominance in its history. So yeah, when we talk about therapy, we probably need it. This is why whenever Bitcoin has a little bit of a wobbly, altcoins get destroyed. And guess what's next, boys and girls? The 17th to the 18th, we have FOMC. So it's quite a while away, but often you find that the markets will range before a big decision. And there is a little bit of a probability that we are going to get a rate cut here. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows, right? So smart money doesn't always chase a chop. They wait and then they eat. That's just it. So we may well get a choppy market. And people don't like the idea of that. I know that. And we could talk about a lot of things. And we could talk about rejections, altcoin, talk about Bitcoin, where it's going to go next. And we could talk about the USD prices of said assets and look at where we are right now. It's not looking great, is it? Let's be honest here. But yeah. If you want ever evolving analysis, instead of this diamond hand fantasy where you're going to get rich forever if you just set and forget, let's be honest here, if you did that on altcoins, you'd be struggling right now. And yeah, just keep an open mind. You've got to look at the market for what you see. You can't just be constantly long, can't just be constantly short neither, right? You have to change the wheel, so to speak, right? So yeah. Even if my bias offends people, I don't care. It's my money, not yours. And this is one of my current live trades right now. It's doing pretty well. It's okay. It could be better. I would have preferred a better entry point. But ultimately, I've been in this for a couple of days now. The reality is, with trades like this, you have to be very careful with crypto because the bias will flip very quickly. As I say, it's very bipolar. It chops a lot and it's a pain in the ass. It makes me look stupid. But ultimately, if I'm following the grain, there's a good chance I'll be profitable in the long term. And I've proven that over years. But, as I say, if you're interested in watching more content, subscribe. If you want to see more of me, check out Patreon, my journal of what I'm doing in terms of trade, in terms of investments, dividend investments, stock market investments, whatever. Jump in. You can see a lot there.